Well, I'm not going to be certainly critical of the jobs bill because I do think that perhaps there's something to it. Mall of America, I think that investor tax credit is going to yield, at least over time, some good things. But let's just be frank. I think if we're going to turn business around in Minnesota, we've got to turn our tax climate around. We've got to deal with the corporate income tax, sales tax, personal income tax. We've got to get some regulatory reform in there, and we've got to really change the complexion of our state in terms of its business climate. Being, again, 43rd in the country is not going to move this state forward. Again, we sort of tweaked on the edge a little bit today with some of these ideas, and they may yield something, but certainly they'll be temporary, nothing that lasting over time. So as we go forward through the rest of the session, my hope is that we get serious about business climate in Minnesota. And put business in Minnesota at a point or on a pedestal, which basically says that not only we care about you, we're going to be competitive both nationally and internationally. Unless we are, we're not going to prosper the way that any of us want. The state's not going to go forward in the way it should. So again, my hope is that we just come forward and really spend the last month or so of this session emphasizing business climate and restoring our state to prosperity.
Thanks, Dave. 2 points from my perspective, from our perspective of the Senate Republicans. Number one, I think today we passed a bill that is much more of a jobs bill than the bonding bill. The research and development credit, the angel investor credit, that sends a good message. Not the best message we could send, but it sends a good message, particularly to private sector job creators. The message we'd like to see, or even prefer to see, is one that takes any taxes off the table. The best message we could give to businesses in Minnesota, and those even thinking of locating here, is that we're going to make it a cheaper place to do business. But the majority still has not taken taxes off the table, and I hope that's not coming when we come back here, but that still remains to be seen. The second point I'd make is we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of work to do from a budget standpoint. We continue to ask, where's the plan? Where's the outline of a plan? Where's the targets? What are your deadlines for targets? And let me give you a real specific example of that. There are, in the state of Minnesota today, 400 school districts that are waiting. There's 400 school districts, public school districts plus charter schools, that are trying to set a budget. And I know, sitting on a couple education committees, they are juggling multiple budget scenarios that include cuts. A month ago, the governor laid out a bill that has no cuts for K-12. That's where we should be. That's what the legislature could have said today, if not earlier, but we're still letting them hang out there. So we're not sure about K-12, we're not sure about taxes, and I guess we're waiting. We're waiting for this federal money, which I know the majority is excited about. It looks like a lot of it could be one-time money. So whoever's coming back here as governor or in the next legislature is still going to have a lot of work to do. So good step today with the jobs bill, but we could do a lot more. We could send a much stronger message about business and jobs, and we've got a lot of work to do on the budget still.
Yeah, we're gonna push that. There's no question, and at least in my mind, I think Senator Michel would share this, that going forward, we're going to have to do something about tax rates in Minnesota if we're going to be competitive. And yes, taking those rates down is going to cost some money, and we're going to have to find it somewhere. There's no question about it. But unless you do that, you're not going to move this state forward. You're not going to be competitive. Senator Michel and I have spent probably 3 summers going out and talking to corporate leaders across the Twin City area and even outstate. And repeatedly what we hear are concerns about our tax climate. You know, why don't you invest in Minnesota? Well, because of our tax climate, and so on and so forth. You can hear that so many times, and pretty soon you start believing, I'll tell you that. And as we work here in the legislature, I think we just have to start thinking about where we are in terms of overall tax climate, and particularly the business tax climate, if we're going to take this state forward. And it will cost some money. We're going to have to make that hard decision, but we have to do it.
Sorry, Mr. Leader, do you folks think that the governor may have put himself in a box by agreeing to a portion of the budget, increase the chances of him being in a position where he needs to unallot if the court lets him do it?
I'll take a shot at that, Bill. I guess we're assuming he's going to sign this bill. That's part of your question.
That's the assumption I'm making, right? In other words.
Well, I haven't talked to the governor about his calculations. My sense is, like all of us, we're excited to ever see the DFL legislature actually make cuts, make real cuts, and we'd like to do more. We sat on the Senate floor a week to 10 days ago and used the governor's budget as a kind of a foundation, and we put together a full budget. So we hope we get to discuss the entire budget now. There may be an unallotment strategy that the governor's, keeping in his back pocket, but he hasn't shared that with us.
Do you think the governor should sign this bill, the budget bill?
No. The case that we were making, Rachel, was, again, you can't do this in pieces, and that you should do first things first. Our argument has been that coming out of this session, we should be talking about jobs, and we should be talking about schools. You should do the K-12 budget first. You should do tax cuts, and yes, even tax rate decreases first. You should plant that flag and say, this is a state that you should come to create a job, to start a business, to grow a business. And we're not doing that with this budget bill. I think maybe the only reason for him to sign it would be, well, this takes a little bit off the table, and then if they're going to leave me with the rest, a la last year, then it's a slightly smaller cut.
Do you think he should veto it?
I think we should talk about the whole budget together.
But this bill that will be on his desk
Will not be the whole budget together.
so
Yes.
You think he should?
Your question assumed that we're looking for a bare minimum legislative session. A bare minimum would be we somehow fix $1 billion budget deficit and don't do anything more. And we'd like to do more, especially about those out-year deficit numbers. So the good thing about $300 million in real cuts is that it's roughly $2. And for every dollar you cut this year, it's $2 in the next biennium. That's a good thing. But we got to get more than $300 million in cuts. A responsible legislative solution in this year gets to $1 billion with more cuts, with more reform, with business and jobs tax reforms, and boy, we're not there. We're not there. And again, I'd like to see an earlier declaration of what our priorities are. If we're going to protect K-12, if we're going to say that's the most important thing we do, well, let's say that. Let's not hold it out there. Let's not hold it out there for the replay of last year, the last night of session, right, when you got things hitting the floor with 20 minutes to go.
Be more direct. As a legislator, and I think the governor has to think about this as well. I mean, we lock these bills in today. Now, he may have power to unlock this thing as a governor, but we certainly don't as a legislature. We cannot go back and draw money out of these categories at this point. We've got to be looking forward. We may well find ourselves in a position, who knows, 2-3 weeks down the way here that we need to go back and reconsider what we've done. We can't do that as a legislature. I hope the governor realizes last year. None of us wanted unallotment. It occurred, and I just think politically for the DFL. They don't want to leave this session leaving the governor to do unallotment. At least back where I come from, I think the governor won big time on that one politically. We couldn't do our job. He had to. And I rather think that twice in a row like that, people are going to start to wonder about their legislature. So my hope and my advice to the DFL colleagues would be, kind of let's all get it done. That's what we sent us here for. We ought to be able to get this budget done. They just got to bring the numbers forward, and we can deal with them. But if they do, I think, as you saw today, Republicans and Democrats can work together to make solutions, and just give us a chance, and we'll make this work.